All right. Greetings. Welcome to Dorsey's Resource. Today, the topic of this video is going to be Dinar RV GCR. This is going to be a short intel update, but as usual, first, before we get started, I'd like to give a disclaimer. This video is going to be for informational and educational purposes only. Please understand everyone's individual circumstance or situation may be different. It's up to every individual competent person to please do his or her own homework and research regarding the matter being discussed. This information is not to be construed as legal advice. In the event you feel you need to seek a competent professional, it is encouraged you do so at one's own leisure. Dorsey's Resource Channel is not liable or responsible for any misuse of this information. With that being said, these are my opinions on the topic. All rights are reserved. And please keep in mind, everyone is responsible for their own affairs, so govern yourselves accordingly. Now, to jump right in the topic, I got a short intel update. I was actually, just to give you guys a heads up, I'm still here. I want to thank you guys that have continued to follow my channel. Those who are still subscribed, I do appreciate you all. I want to let you all know that I'm still here. I know it's been a little minute since last month after I gave you guys the update with me coming back and everything. So I want to do like a short video and let you guys know, because I had a little bit of time. I got to work earlier than I normally do. So I actually was going to do a different topic this past weekend, but I got distracted, and then I got distracted again during the day. But it was a productive phone call I was on. I've been doing some investigative research behind the scenes with things related to the redemption education, and I've been getting updates, some very good intel updates. I would consider things to be at a greater level, and I got an email that I just noticed came in I think Sunday, but I got it Monday. We're still into Monday. The time now is approximately 22:39, 22:40. That's military time, which is for 10:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And without further ado, to jump right in, what I got, this was a short video that was sent to me. It was less than 20 minutes. It's approximately over 16 minutes. I was actually thinking about uploading the video to this channel. If I do that, I may not put the name of the individual in the video. If so, maybe just only his last name. I have referenced this person before. This is not like known as a top guru, or I would say he's an intel provider. That's the name that I prefer to use. But however, from one of my sources, my contacts, his information was stated to me is supposed to be very reliable. It's supposed to be good, and it sounds like it has credibility. When I listened to his videos in the past, as well as audios, even a collaboration he did was sort of like an interview with the lady. I don't know her name. I also don't know the name of the website, because this is being relayed to me by a source that I have. You can consider like a third party that's basically wants me to know, because there's different types of people that go over this information pertaining to the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar, the GCR, that stands for global currency reset. A few things he touched on was the 800 numbers and a few other things. And he reiterated that he brought up that there was concern, or appears to be some concern over the 800 numbers, which I've noticed more recently from a lot of people who are new to this type of investment that got involved in more recent years. I would encourage anybody, before you jump into anything, do your homework, research things in depth. I've never come out here, even when I've done videos in the past, that's told people to just in a forceful way, or try to say, yeah, you need to go buy Iraqi dinars or other types of foreign currencies. That's why I give a disclaimer. This is not financial. This is not legal advice. This is not securities advice. In that event, you need to seek that. It's encouraged you seek those professionals out. But I'm just sharing my opinion from my experience. And there are major banks that used to sell the Iraqi dinar. One of them I didn't really normally mention in the past. One of them was Chase Bank. Another bank was Fifth Third Bank. From what I understand, they no longer sell it. There's another bank I was informed privately from a contact that I have that actually sells it, that I would say is a smaller mom and pop bank. But as you and I know, or many of you all know, if you've studied the banking system, the Federal Reserve banking system, many of these local banking institutions, just to throw a few names, banks out there, even credit unions, such as Michigan First Credit Union, First Federal, Huntington Bank, SunTrust Bank is still around. That's generally in the southern states. You have Bank of America, of course. If I think I mentioned Chase, of course, Wells Fargo. All of these institutions, including credit unions, they are FDIC insured. 9 times out of 10, you can call them up and ask them personally. They fall up under the Federal Reserve's structure. So they're like a division of sub banks with up under the Federal Reserve's banking system, by the way. Just putting it out there. That's why I went over those documentaries in the past that will provide the proper education for people to assess if they've come into this information for the first time. That's very important. You should have a background, an awareness of the history behind the banking system. Even the documentary called Monopoly Men, and there's another documentary called Money Masters. I also suggest for those involved with the GCR or waiting for the revaluation to check out the movie called Changes on the Horizon. It's a documentary called Changes on the Horizon. I saw one version of it appeared to be removed from YouTube. There was 3 parts to it, but somebody had uploaded an uncut version where it was not split up into 3 separate parts. So I don't know if that's back up, but you want to see if you can still find it. It's called Changes on the Horizon. If I was on my my other computer, I would post a link in the chat, in the super chat section, so you guys could see. By the way, so I'm gonna get in to acknowledge a few of you guys have jumped in. Sonia Johnson says, "Hey Dorsey, appreciate you, Sonia, in the building." Darren Jackson says, "We truly appreciate your hard work." Appreciate you, Darren. Thank you for joining. Jamie Haynes says, "Good to know that you're back." Appreciate you all for joining. Once again, those who continue to follow me, I appreciate you. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. You can hit the notification bell at the bottom lower right-hand corner of the video so that YouTube will notify you whenever I put out new content, by the way. I also have a second backup channel you're welcome to subscribe to that I might put out updates over there, or when I go dark sometimes for a while, I might do a video, or I may do a video over there to give you guys a heads up to come over here to this channel ahead of time. I generally don't have like a set schedule yet, by the way, so just bear with me for the time being until I get better at learning YouTube. They have upgraded their platform for a lot of content creators that allows them to set times and stuff like that for videos. By the way, my schedule has just been really busy, and there's a couple other topics that I plan on coming before you all. Like I say, this wasn't the topic that I had planned on discussing, and I want to let you all know I did plan on coming to you guys this past weekend. I'm going to have to change my schedule, because what's happening is I'm going to have to let some friends know there are certain peak times when I can reach a larger audience. And fortunately, I've noticed, and I've heard this discussed from other content creators, I get phone calls from friends of people that know me, and I don't want them to feel like I'm neglecting them. So a lot of times I pick up an answer, but that kind of interferes with my schedule. And you guys know I'm still working a graveyard shift, so my schedule fluctuates, and I don't really have like a set routine, because my job, my work schedule, they switched up my days again, where they broke my off days up. And that's been pretty routine throughout the years. It would have been a major blessing had I been able to leave this job a long time ago. Just over broke is what job stands for, a form of involuntary servitude, by the way. But you live and you learn in life. You only get one life, and you have to go as you go. If you weren't blessed to have parents that were born into wealth, or you didn't have it handed to you on a silver platter. I'm one who's been through the school of hard knocks, certainly, and I've just had to learn as I'm going through navigating treacherous waters, and I've come across new information, by the way. And this is not necessarily referring to the GCR, this other information that I would consider high-level redemption education that can sort of tie into this type of information, by the way. But this contact discussed with me to kind of stay on topic about the dinar. It was also the Zimbabwe dollar they discussed as well. And they went over, they said that 800 numbers, they did believe, from their opinion, they were stating that they're supposed to go through some site called SafeLink or something like that, that is supposed to allow them to be broadcasted or put out in a more secure manner that people can trust. Because I know there's concern that people were saying that anyone can come up with the 800 number. There was concern over people saying that you could possibly be lured in and scammed. By the way, I do understand that's a legitimate concern, by the way. And also too, guys, by the way, if you can, in case you're watching, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. It does help me rank higher in the YouTube search results. By the way, if you guys want to see me go to the next level, please hit the thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to Dorsey's Resource. You can follow me on Twitter at Dorsey's Resource. I'm also on Facebook at Dorsey's Resource, and Instagram at Dorsey's Resource _2019. Obviously on YouTube, and I have a backup channel, Dorsey's Resource channel too. So I appreciate you guys hitting the thumbs up button. It's also an unofficial way of voting. If you like the content that I put out, you agree with what I'm saying overall, you like the work, definitely you guys want to see me get out there, definitely hit the thumbs up. Appreciate you. So jumping back into the intel, the source was saying that this site, I guess called SafeLink, I'm not really familiar with it. The description they were giving, the 800 numbers, when they do come out allegedly, I'm still kind of just like you guys. I won't know until all of this takes place. You know, I do have sources, but they're at a certain level, I believe, in my opinion. I'm at a certain level in this, and there's different types of people called gurus out there, which I don't really use that term. I refer to top intel providers that provide intel information for those involved in this type of investment. I just went over earlier, just to let you guys know, I have confirmed information, banks that used to sell the Iraqi dinar. I even spoke to a banker last year that worked for Fifth Third Bank. I won't say her name or which state that it's in, by the way, and but it was confirmed it was Fifth Third Bank. And I also got confirmation Chase Bank used to sell Iraqi dinar, and I've had confirmation from several different people, by the way, with Chase and Fifth Third. So even though, because they were also told or trained years ago to say they don't deal with the dinar, I noticed that's very similar to the TDA movements when people say, oh no, Dorsey, you're just lying, those secret accounts, they don't exist, you guys are just making that up, that's a QAnon conspiracy theory. But I actually do have legitimate sources, people that have actually told me, and I'm not somebody who's hiding behind a fake or shield account. I'm someone who's showing their actual face, someone who's given their actual name in my videos in the past. So just something to think about, by the way. But I always encourage you all to make sure you do your research, do your homework, vet the information out, take an in-depth, close look, evaluate. Don't trust what I'm saying, but please do your research and homework. So once again, they were saying that there's supposed to be security behind the 800 numbers, and how the information is supposed to come out in a safe, secure manner through, I guess, some site, something called SafeLink. I don't know too much about SafeLink or whatever, how that's supposed to, all the details, it's kind of murky. They also mentioned, make sure you're on your best behavior if you do go to the exchanges. This individual stated, just to reiterate, that if you're acting in an unprofessional manner, whatever, they can and will walk you out, by the way, and you won't be exchanging at all, by the way. Just leave it at that. So they encourage that. They did also state that they have like a surprise or something else everyone won't know once you get to the exchange center. If you're I guess I'm not sure, all the details is murky, but if you're probably holding Zim notes or whatever, that's supposed to go at a significantly higher rate from what I understand. And so the 800 numbers would specifically apply definitely to those notes. I'm not sure about the other ones. As I've said to people that don't believe or don't trust the 800 numbers, it's up to them. I'm just relaying the information. This was relayed to me by a third-party source through an email, and I watched the video, and I've watched several previous videos from this guy, and he appears to be right on target, by the way, from in comparison to other intel providers out there, by the way. And there's two different intel providers who they both mention about 800 numbers, by the way. So I'm just saying, I know there's those that don't believe. So if you want to wait till it hits the banking institutions, like that's the market rate, known as the street rate or international rate, you know, that's perfectly fine. You know, people can do what they do. It's up to them. Once again, I'm just relaying the information, by the way. And I always encourage you guys to make an assessment. So that was one of the things, some of the information they went over. There's going to be, they're going to give you something to choose from if you have a large amount of notes. And I think there's going to be a cap that's set because so people aren't, I guess, double dipping, or if you're holding a large sum, they're going to cap it off at a certain amount, because there's people that are greedy out there. There's people that already make like, let's say, a higher income, and they already are doing like sting operations, what it appears like, to stop certain cabal people or people they don't want that are involved in activities. And this was discussed, I heard, on a separate conference call, by the way. So this kind of, I think, coincides with this particular source, with the information I've gotten, as well as another conference call that I've listened to, by the way, just without mentioning names, to show how there's some similarities. I notice, I believe there's some truth and relevance to this information. So they stress that people be on their best behavior that are involved in this, because the banks, these institutions or exchange centers more specifically, if you're not, they can't escort you out. I don't know about the NDAs, but I wouldn't be surprised if they have those. It could apply if you're at a certain level. This intel provider also mentioned if you're holding a large sum, then you're going to be given some options. That's he said it's a particular thing that's going to be kept secret from everybody. They have something, I don't remember what it was called. I would have to listen to the call again that he mentioned. They're going to give you a couple options. It sounds like maybe a few options where you can get possibly a structured payout. You know, similar to like when people win the lottery, for example. You know how people can take the full lump sum amount, or people can take have it broken up into portions, by the way. So something similar to that. They're going to set a cap, of course, if you're holding a certain amount, and then they're going to give you the option, but there's going to be a surprise, from what I understand. And they've kept that information secretive, even from one of the very top sources, from what was relayed, by the way. For those that are involved or do believe this investment is real, or have been involved in this investment for a long time, by the way. In the meantime, I will tell people, once again, I do give a disclaimer. This is not financial. This is not securities advice. This is not legal advice. Any event you feel you need to seek a competent professional, it is encouraged that you do so at your own leisure. Dorsey's Resource Channel is not liable, just giving my opinions on the topic. All rights are reserved, by the way. So just putting that disclaimer out there once again, so you guys will clearly understand everyone is responsible for their own affairs. I'm just relaying this information as a messenger, by the way. You guys have all of the power to do whatever you please. So I'm just sharing because I feel, and some of these intel providers feel like it's important to at least do their level best, because this is private. So they're still trying to do their level best to get the information out there to you guys. Maybe they see me or others as like a third-party source that can help relay that information in a professional manner, by the way, so they can stay private. Because I understand some of these individuals, they of course don't want to show their faces and names, and I do understand that for security purposes behind that. So just once again, keep that in mind. So that's pretty much everything that I remember so far. If you guys have any questions, this is a Q&A session, so don't hesitate to chime in. I'm going to jump back into the chat to acknowledge you all. Says State Bound, says peace and blessings. Thank you for joining, State Bound. Digger 420 says, good to see you, bro. Thumbs up. Appreciate you, Digger. Digger 420 says, I think we're close to the reset, like within 3 days. Okay, I appreciate you. Wapika Elu El Bay says, greetings, brother Dorsey. Thank you, Wapika, for joining. Another thing that was brought up, you just kind of reminded me from your statement, Digger, this top guru, and that's why I stay away from specific dates and rates. They mentioned once again, they reiterated, this is something I forgot about from the video that I watched, was short video. It's approximately just over 16 minutes. They mentioned they don't want people to know the specific date. They want this to kind of roll out in a discreet manner. He said things are also a fluid situation, by the way. So those of you all who are involved with the reset, it's an evolving, fluid sort of thing. So there's information that can change abruptly as we're going along. And he says, he also reiterated earlier on in the video, I forgot about this, so you kind of, Digger helped me remind me of some key points to go over. But he also reiterated that people who are newbies have to understand, people who are fairly new, he said, like maybe like 5 months ago, you got to understand that gurus are not in control of this. We're not in control of this. The powers that be at the very top, he also reiterated, I would say many of them, he stated they don't want to see us come into this type of wealth, by the way. He reiterated that, excuse me, from this source that I have. They don't want to see us come into this type of funding or wealth, by the way. And I'll say that again. He said that earlier on. He also stated during the video that it's important. He doesn't want to mention a potential date. They want to keep people, it appears as though they don't want people to know the specific date. But he did mention something recently. It appears as though I felt it's too sensitive to say, and that's one of the reasons I decided not to upload the video. Plus, I would like to beforehand kind of do a commentary similar to Currency 365, and big shout out to his channel, how he relays information from Foot Forward, Benny, and other people, by the way, which I think a lot of people have different bits and pieces of information too, by the way, that can kind of help formulate a picture and kind of help provide some type of validity, by the way, for those who are kind of in the dark about what's going on. Because I understand and overstand this information can be kind of vague, but I have heard this mentioned in the past. He did say, stay away from dates and rates. Just understand at the end of the day, it should be good. If you felt like you bought enough currency, different foreign currencies, by the way, if you're holding Indonesian rupiah, dong, or dinar, or zim, or Iranian rial, or Korean won, or whatever, Japanese yen, or whatever, just feel comfortable with what you have. But stay away from rates and stay away from dates, because he said they will move, and they've done this throughout the years. It could be one of the reasons there's been delay after delay after delay, because he said they're ultimately in control. And I have stated this in the past from my older videos, from my frustrations and being in this so long. I feel like I've matured at a great degree, and I've grown out of my frustrations of being impatient, by the way, because I've been involved in this for a number of years. By the way, I've officially have held, I would say, foreign currency since 2011, by the way. And I've been knowing about this particular type of investment since 2006. So imagine I waited until 2011 to get involved. I had a friend that contacted me at the end of 2010, in December of 2010. He knew about the dinar going back to 2003. He explained to me he was having a conversation at this place called Guitar Center in Southfield, Michigan. That's all. I'll leave it. I'm not saying the name of the individual, but this was a long time ago. That was some years ago. That's already passed. Sometime around, I believe he mentioned 2003, and he reminded me about it because these private classes I used to go to years ago related to redemption education used to bring up the Iraqi dinar and a certain individual back in 06, 2006. And the same individual I'm actually still in contact with sent me the email of this particular top intel provider. And I asked him about this person, and he said he got it from a source, and he believes, you know, that this individual is a credible individual. And for what I've learned so far, the individual allegedly he has a military contact, by the way, and he has another contact as well. I don't know who his other contact is, with someone who's involved, because you have something called 6 degrees of separation. And sometimes you can be less than 6 degrees. That means you're 6 people away from knowing somebody really famous or somebody high up, somebody that has, you know, a lot of clout, a lot of status. It could be a high net worth individual. It could be someone famous. It could be a politician. It could be a clergyman on a high scale, like the Pope or somebody, for example. I mean, you could be 6 people away. Sometimes it could be less than that. You could be 1 person away, where you contact this 1 person, they can give you the phone call, or they can talk to the actual source and say, hey, I have a friend you've never met, who I'm good friends with, I vetted out, who would like to speak with you, and this is XYZ. Because people talk privately behind the scenes, and if you understand how the military works, by the way, there's people that go through like certain types of clearances and things of that sort. That's all I'll kind of leave it at. And there's different branches of the military and different projects, by the way, operations too. They not all do the same job, by the way. So you got to expand your mind and how you think, by the way. And some things are meant to be kept more private, by the way. So just to give you guys an idea. So let me see if there's any more people in the chat. So we have Queen Crab 1980 says, do you have any guess on what the dinar rate might be? Well, if you were just watching, I'm not sure how long you've been watching Queen Crab 1980. I just went over this source that I'm relaying the information from this video that I saw stated you want to stay away from dates and you want to stay away from rates, by the way. So that's why I try to generally, there's people that can guess, and they've delayed this for a number of years, by the way. So I would suggest, in my humble opinion, stay away from dates and stay away from rates. Just it should be through word of mouth. Once this officially hits and comes out, then you'll probably most likely get informed if you're someone in the know, you know, because this is supposedly on a tier system. And they said the internet group, when they call like tier 4B, are people that have basically been paying attention, keeping up with the intel providers out there. And right after that, allegedly, is when the general public is supposed to basically go in, I guess, in exchange. Not too long. But remember, they control this ultimately, the powers that be, those who are behind this, that are really high up, by the way. So just keep that in mind. That's why I don't mention, I stay away from specific dates, specific rates. This intel source that I'm relaying was stating that in the video. That's one of the recent information. I've heard that going over in the past, by the way. Gerald Joke says, what up, Dorsey? Haven't forgotten about you. Got a money order ready for you, but they don't want us to save the people and the planet. They want love and humanity dead. Long live the truth. Yes, thank you, Gerald. I appreciate you. I understand what you're saying. You're definitely absolutely on target. There's some new information other information I've come across. I don't want to spook you guys at all, but I pay attention to information that's related in a way, like to economists out there. If you follow, like the stock market or the commodities market, by the way, the physical market as well as the paper market or futures market. Some people call the futures the paper market, digital market. By the way, JP Morgan was fined not too long ago, by the way, for spoofing that dealt with precious metals, because the paper market can affect the physical market, the tangible commodities market. specifically dealing with the COMEX exchange. That's the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, which is connected to the New York Stock Exchange, by the way. And you have your eyeglasses on. The cabal people at the top, they don't like people holding the physical precious metals like physical gold and silver. That's why they play the paper game. But from what I was told by another separate source that I have, stated they won't be able to play that game forever where they're manipulating the price. I heard that there's new rules that's being set forth where bank CEOs can be held liable, by the way, allegedly, from another channel I was watching that was reporting on this type of information. So just something to keep in mind there. Also, guys, in case you're just joining me, I'm your host, John Dorsey at Dorsey's Resource. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't. You can hit the notification bell in the lower right-hand corner of the video. I also have a backup channel, Dorsey's Resource Channel 2. You can go over. That's linked to this channel. By the way, you can go over and subscribe. When I put out updates, I may put out cryptic messages or inform you guys ahead of time before I come over here to do a video. I'll give you guys a heads up about the topic I might discuss over here, by the way. So in this video, I'm discussing an intel update dealing with the Iraqi dinar, the global currency reset, the revaluation, as well as other foreign currencies such as the Dawn, the Zim, Zimbabwe. So just keep that in mind. By the way, that's the topic of this video. Also, is Q&A session. So just to give you guys a heads up, appreciate your comment, Gerald. Digger24 said, Digger420, excuse me, says Benny is awesome. Yes, I agree. I listen to a lot of different intel providers. Well, Pika Elu El Bay says, do you think the RV will take place this month? I'm not sure. You know, like I said, they don't want people to know. Well, Pika, in case you're watching, this is for newbies, and I'll mention this again in relation to the other comment. They want us to stay away from dates and rates. I put it on the back burner. I just forget about it, because if you've been investing for a while, similar to cryptocurrencies, hey, you may say, hey, I put a little bit in, I'll forget about it. So they always say, and this is not financial or legal advice, but just in my opinion, if you guys have heard the saying, never invest more than what you can't afford. So never invest more than what you can't afford to lose, by the way. So what I do personally, if I'm invested in something, and it's important because just like people, if you work a job, for example, if you have 401k, that's investing in your retirement and your future. By the way, if you have a Roth IRA, if you have other types of investments set up, you're trying to put yourself in a better position where you can live maybe a better quality of life, by the way. And just like anything, it would be smart to not put all your eggs in one basket. But one of the things this intel provider mentioned is they said they want us to stay away from dates and rates. So forget about dates, forget about rates, forget about when this is happening, when it's going to happen. You will probably find out. It's going to be known amongst people. If you've been keeping up through word of mouth, there's going to be, from what I understand, some of the top intel providers will probably have the 800 numbers. This is why it's important, I think, to listen to multiple sources. Don't just take my word, excuse me, for what I'm saying. Do your homework, make your assessment. Once again, this is not financial, legal, this is not legal advice. In the event you feel you need to seek a competent professional, please do so for securities or legal advice. Just giving my opinion, assessment of the situation, by the way. But it was suggested from this video that I saw, it's important, they stressed, and I'm saying this once again, stay away from dates and rates. In my opinion, just forget about it. It'll probably be great. The rates, it'll probably be good if you know you feel like you're holding enough and you made your own evaluation. People cannot make the decision for you. This is something just like anything in life. You came in this world by yourself. We're all going to leave this world by ourselves. You know, I mean, you can have people physically around you, but when your soul leaves your body or departs your physical, tangible body, you're going by yourself, you know, prior to just as when you came in this world. You have to make the decisions for yourself, by the way. Just something to keep in mind. Gerald Jokes says 32 watts and 21 thumbs up. Come on, y'all, get it up. Thank you, Gerald. Saint Knight says, what's your insight on Indonesian rupiah and Iranian riyals? Thank you, brother. Well, it's part of the process. There are different types of foreign currencies one can make their decision in. There's belief behind how high, a particular one may be versus another one. But like I said, just got finished discussing, it's up to everyone. I don't know how long you've been involved in this investment, Saint Knight, by the way, or how long you've known about that. But in my opinion, I've heard the Iranian riyal earlier on. We were informed that certain foreign currencies were involved in. We're going to be involved in like a secondary type of RV after the first revaluation happens. I'm trying to remember what term they used to use because I've been in this for a long time now. Now they refer to it as they used to say that when the revaluation happens, that's the first basket. Then they said the second basket, the Iranian riyal, was originally set for the second basket, by the way. But I heard it might allegedly, for those holding it, might have gotten moved to the first basket. I won't touch on that in this video. I think that can get a little bit more extensive, by the way, and I am on a time restraint, by the way. So I'm not going to go into that. But however, that's the concept sort of behind that. I heard the rupiah may be probably in the first basket, by the way, Indonesian rupiah. So there was belief, but individuals had to do their own homework and assessment. If you were involved in this years ago and you knew and you felt comfortable with what you were getting into, it would make one and one made a wise decision. One of the things I did, for example, was did research behind these different governments of the world, their economies, the types of resources they had. They had oil. Did they have major corporations investing over there? Did they have precious metals in the ground that could later on minerals and things that could be mined that would be worth lots of money, that would add to their country's GDP, gross domestic product, that would add to their country's value? This is types of things that everyone has to make their own assessment about. Just something to keep in mind if you were aware of this investment, by the way. So that's my insight in regards to the rupiah and the riyal, by the way. That's why I say, to reiterate, it's important to pay attention to different intel providers. For example, I love the work Currency 365 does. He's kind of like a channel that brings a lot of the different intel providers together, or relays different info from different intel providers out there. There's many others out there as well that have their own separate followings, by the way, and it will kind of help formulate a better opinion, and from different angles. What's also going to happen over here is not going to be the same thing that's going to happen over there. What I mean, what's going to happen in Iraq is not going to be the same thing that happens over here when the revaluation takes place. Keep in mind, they have a totally different government. They have different laws, a different type of economy, and the rules, and a different exchange rate, by the way. So that was relayed by a particular guru, who I refer to as a top intel provider, by the way. So just giving you guys an example, because some people are equating things, certain governments, as being the same thing. Just like different states, I tell people, this is not legal advice once again, but you have to look up what the laws are for your state or where you live at. Don't expect everything or everywhere to be the same. This goes even for this country. This country is not the same as Iraq. Okay, there are certain things that can affect the outcome, and things I do get where some of the information that's relayed from overseas, how it can affect us. However, what I was informed some years ago by a particular top intel provider, top guru, some may call, relay what's going to happen for us is going to be different for what's going on over there. And I would apply the same to different countries, different places, by the way. So don't lump everything into one category, and make your own assessment and evaluation. Crab 1980 says, do you believe that Trump is a big reason why we are having this happen now? Or should Trump get some credit for this, or should we vote him in your opinion? That's a good question, Queen Crab 1980. Yes, in my opinion, he's a more so an ally, by the way. You guys got to excuse me. I've nose is somewhat stopped up. It's not a cold or nothing like that. I don't have COVID, by the way. Just to keep that in mind, because I know you guys hear me sniffling. But to answer your question, I think Trump, when it comes to this investment, he's our ally. You look at him prior to being a president, some have said he's not a politician. More so, he was a businessman. He was a successful businessman before he came coming into office, by the way. And those have to keep in mind, it's estimated that he's a billionaire. Some have said recently he may not be a billionaire, but he has a high net worth. We can agree with that, by the way. And also keep in mind, in comparison to other politicians, and specifically Democratic politicians, compare how Trump made his money and being a businessman off of hotel chains, resorts, golf courses, real estate properties, apartment buildings, casinos, etc. When a lot of Democratic politicians come into office broke, but leave out rich or wealthy, that's called corruption. Big difference. Big difference. Even though Trump, we know years prior, if you kept up, if you're an older head like myself, you kind of from the old school, but consider yourself to be still young, being 41 years old, having a good memory, and knowing that some years ago I went with my parents. I went to New Jersey. It was the only time I've been there. I went with some relatives from the Cleveland, Ohio area to I think the Taj Mahal casino that Trump had connections with, the New Jersey area, or Jersey City. I think from what I can recollect as a child, I could vaguely remember, but because one of my parents was particular about the casinos and stuff like that from a religious perspective. But just Trump has been involved with these types of things, these types of investments. And I think he's the right man for the job, being a businessman, being an entrepreneur, by the way, and being involved in these different fields that I named. And then you compare them, for example, not trying to get political, because I was going to do a video, by the way, my next video, and I said this prior, but I'm trying to switch things up because I got distracted this past weekend. I had planned on coming to you guys before Sunday. I'm going to be making some adjustments by that, because I like to come to you guys before peak time, and I'm going to expand the time that I come before you guys to answer questions and comments, questions, or concerns, by the way. So hopefully just look forward to that down the road, to give you guys a heads up once again, in case you all are joining me. I did go over that briefly in this video, but I think I agree with you, Queen Crab 1980, with your question. Do you believe that Trump is a big reason why we're having this happen? Yes, I heard he's pushing for it too, by the way, behind the scenes, where Obama was dragging his feet, by the way, and there was other things. And there was a top intel provider that actually still kept the recording, according to Bruce, by the way, had an older call that President Obama was holding the Dinar up during his administration. I even had a source that contacted me, a top source that stated she's working behind the scenes. I won't say her name to protect her identity. And we had a private Skype conversation, and she confirmed to me that my information was correct. And she said she knew that it would never take place under Obama's administration. Because keep in mind, Currency 365 did a video on his channel, by the way. I don't remember what it's called, but in case Currency 365 is watching this video, or maybe some of you guys that follow me that do know Currency 365 can get in touch with him and let him know whatever video that was. He did a video talking about politically the Democrats don't have our best interest at heart, by the way. And I'm going to do a video down the road where I planned on covering, I know there's pros and cons, by the way. I'm not trying to sell you on a particular party. I'm not a registered voter, by the way. I have not been a registered voter since 2004, but I still pay attention to what's going on. I'm an astute person. I have a good memory. Have been stated by some, even recently, one of my relatives, close relatives, She had texted me, said I'm left-handed, by the way, which I am. By the way, you can tell I'm holding this pen. And lefties are known to be intelligent people. I'm also an Aquarius, by the way. So I had no choice but to be born a genius. I'm just saying. So, you know, I keep my eyes and to the, you know, I pay close attention. I've been stated by some to be razor sharp in years past with the my uncanny ability to remember certain things. I'm not saying that I have full autobiographical memory. I did research on myself, by the way, but I can point back to years past and remember certain things that were reported on, even if I can't remember the specific date. And this is accurate information. This is not, I want to assure you all, this is not fake news. I do give a disclaimer, but I want you guys to assess, evaluate the information that I'm going over, by the way, so you guys can formulate your own judgment. By the way, don't just take my word for what I say, but please do your homework. How many people actually encourage you to do that? Think about that. You know, haters out there, gatekeepers, because they want to keep you in the dark. A lot of haters, gatekeepers, and minions, which are underlinks, by the way, for the powers that be, and minions, they don't want you to know some of this information because it's in their interest. They want to control you better. You see, they don't want you becoming free. So yes, I agree. This is why I'm kind of going over that. In my humble opinion, Trump, he's definitely our ally. Those involved with this investment, but there's also people behind the scenes, too, by the way, that he's being backed. And I will call it, they're referred to as the alliance. By the way, some refer to as the good cabal. There's a difference between, you have this really evil cabal that really is involved in human trafficking, pedophilia, that's very corrupt, that manipulates the banking system, the commodities market, like I went over earlier. Not only was JP Morgan fined, but Scotia Bank, based in Canada, not too long ago, they were fined, got in trouble for spoofing, manipulating the commodities market, by the way. They got in big trouble. But why is this? This is like a slap on the wrist, because keep in mind they are banks. So what's $1 billion to them is still like a drop in the bucket if they're practicing fractional reserve banking. If you know what fractional reserve banking is, where they can loan up to 90% of what you have on deposit. So say if you have $10,000 on deposit, based off your John Hancock, your signature, they can loan up to $90,000 per customer. And based on how you're contracting too, how you're operating, you know, they monetize things when you're involved in certain contracts. You call yourself a U.S. citizen, a U.S. resident, a registered voter, by the way. You fill out the census. These are contracts behind the scenes where they're tapping in as intermediaries, by the way. And they're charging that account. It's like when you hire a lawyer or attorney, you're declaring yourself incompetent. That you need a representative to go in and represent you. Pay attention to the prefixes, the suffixes of the word. Represent. They're representing you. You're giving them power of attorney over something, if you're financially, mentally astute, something that you can do yourself, by the way. But you're giving them the authority when you sign your signature. Sometimes it's unknowingly that many of us, you can be duped or induced into involuntary contracts that you're not aware of, that behind the scenes, this corporation or this entity is tapping into, by the way, because you're not aware that your contracting or the way you're engaging in business is giving them the authority to have a form of power of attorney and can be connected to other things, other contracts as well. So yes, I appreciate it. That's a very good question, Queen Crab. And going over, see if you can find the video that Currency 365 did. He did a video that was a breakdown, very excellent video. I thought it was phenomenal, that kind of illustrated how the conservatives, Republican Party is not perfect, but however, compared to the Democratic Party, they're more of our allies. They have our back more so. I mean, they have their flaws, by the way. I've heard that Soros even has his hands, even with conservative Republican politicians. He's funded behind the scenes. This is on record. Lisa Haven has done videos where she's shown the documents, shown the evidence I've seen in prior videos to other groups, by the way. I just found out recently she did a video that mentioned how George Soros funds 80 different groups. Look up his organization, Open Society Foundation. His son in New York, based in New York, Alexander Soros. You can look him up. It's people I found out that already know who he is. And they were trolling him on Instagram. Of course, I don't follow him, but I just happen to be doing some research. You know how you can look up other accounts and just do your own perusing. And I said, wow, people were trolling Alexander Soros. So they know who he is. And other cabal people and their kids. There's people paying attention. I said, wow, I'm glad that people are waking up. I commend everyone out there that is paying attention to the truth, that is awake. But the Republican Party, think about when I went over Trump's background, by the way, he was more so a businessman. Remember, this is his first time, you know, being a politician compared to other people. Joe Biden's been like, he's one of those people that's a lifetime politician. He's been in politics for a number of years. He voted for the 1994 crime bill. He was good friends with former Democratic Senator James Eastland, who owned a slavery plantation. Yes, look up James Eastland, former senator Joe Biden was friends with. Look at the Clintons. They were friends with former Senator Robert Byrd, who was a member of the Ku Klux Klan. Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton both gave major condolences to Senator Byrd, and he was also involved with the MK Ultra, the private CIA operation, sex trafficking operation, by the way. Just something to keep in mind. So, you know, when I compare the Democratic Party to the Conservative Party. The Conservative Republican Party, they were also the party that fought to end slavery, by the way. If you know about the Democrats created the black codes. The Democrats created the Jim Crow laws where, you know, remember blacks couldn't use certain restrooms. That was the Democratic Party that did that, by the way. Look it up. Democrats were responsible for burning down Black Wall Street. That was known as, it's like a nickname. It was when years ago in Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1921, when there was predominant members of the African-American community, had a lot of businesses. There was members of the Ku Klux Klan, because remember, the Democrats controlled the Deep South. I used to watch a show with my parents growing up that PBS used to show called Eyes on the Prize. You can look up on YouTube, called Eyes on the Prize, and it would go over like the civil rights history and stuff. Because my great grandfather was connected, was part of the Church of God in Christ. He helped construct. He was the building commissioner behind Mason Temple in Memphis, Tennessee. He knew Bishop Mason in the Pentecostal denomination, the Church of God in Christ. Even though, in my opinion, I've seen a lot of church leaders and ministers sell out in the body of Christ. They're already sold out to the New World Order. But I saw this years ago when they had something called the FBI, Faith-Based Initiative, by the way. They took government money, faith-based initiative. Someone pointed this out. I had a subscriber who brought this up. Yes, there's a lot of people are really showing their true colors now, and this includes clergy people as well, that are making excuses for President Obama, that they're holding Trump to be accountable. I was watching one channel where they had on this preacher who was, I guess, out of Canada, was a member of the Church of God in Christ, and I said, well, you're not holding Obama for the things that he did. He did a lot of corrupt things, unilaterally bypassed Congress. He passed a lot of executive orders, by the way. It's rumored, I have to look it up, but it was supposedly record number of executive orders, by the way, where Trump has followed more so the rule of law, believe it or not, even though they call Trump a demigod. But look at Obama's track record. Obama, and there's things that happen to push same-sex marriage, to push the affordable, so-called Affordable Care Act. It was Supreme Court justices were threatened, by the way. I heard about that. Justice Roberts, how he was threatened, and his family, by the way, wink, wink. Why did that happen? You think that's by coincidence? You know, Justice Antonin Scalia being murdered, sadly, under suspicious circumstances, and there was no autopsy done, by the way. Wink, wink. under Obama's administration, by the way. Wink, wink. Just saying, why isn't that brought up? Very serious, very egregious criminal activities. But, just saying, let you guys make your own assessment. If Trump is this big bad boogeyman, I'm scared. You know, but you don't hold one liable, but you hold the other accountable. Just something to think about, by the way. Comparing the two. Not perfect. There's pros and cons with each, by the way. But the conservatives, in my opinion, Republicans, they were the party that fought to end slavery. Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, by the way. Frederick Douglass was a Republican. They were the abolitionists who fought to end slavery. It was after slavery, Democrats fought to re-enslave black people. Why did most black people switch over to the Democratic Party in the 1960s? Around that time period, late 50s going into the 60s. It's just that Barry Goldwater felt that that particular Civil Rights Act, when he looked at that legislation, he felt it would hold African Americans back. Lyndon Baines Johnson, who took over after Kennedy was assassinated, which was another hit job, by the way. Kennedy was more so an ally, but he authored his civil rights legislation off of the original Civil Rights Act that Republicans came up with in the 1800s, I found out. And then when Lyndon Baines Johnson took over that Civil Rights Act, he tweaked it and included what was called the entitlement programs, which were government programs which were designed to run out of money, known as the government welfare programs. And remember what Lyndon Baines Johnson has said on record. These are not my words. He said, I'll have those N-words voting Democrat for the next 200 years. Not my words, but you can look it up. This is on record. Lyndon Baines Johnson said this, and what he said very derogatorily, a derogatory term in reference to Martin Luther King. He started calling him the N-word preacher after Martin Luther King started speaking against the Vietnam War. Right after King had won the Nobel Peace Prize, Lyndon Baines Johnson flipped it because King started going against the deep state at the time. That was the equivalent. J. Edgar Hoover, and who was known, I was told by elder relatives, will admit, who are liberal, who are Democrat, by the way, even will admit that were alive during that time period, or children, and they knew. It was well known that J. Edgar Hoover and Lyndon Baines Johnson, they were racist, and it was known that J. Edgar Hoover did not like the Kennedys. He didn't like Martin Luther King, by the way. This was well known. It's what the FBI says, and that's why there's a big shakeup or cleanup that's supposed to be going on. Because I can do a video about the deep state, and I heard about this supposed bill that the House is trying to pass about QAnon, calling it a conspiracy theory. By the way, we need to maybe address touch on that, but this video really wasn't about that. And those out there that will try to accuse me of being a conspiracy theorist, I'm a conspiracy realist. There's a such thing as called conspiracy reality, or I talk about conspiracy facts. You have to break the words up. By the way, those are two separate words. A theory is something that's theoretical or something that hasn't been proven. I've talked about things that are proven. Now, other things, I leave it up to you guys to do your own assessment, evaluation, and formulate your own opinion of what you guys believe, by the way. You know, just keep that in mind. So when talking about politics, by the way, which this information gets into, that's why I felt Trump is more of our ally. The Republican Party, I'm for God, family, and the Constitution. Their ideology has more things that align with my values, by the way. I'm pro-life, by the way. There's this talk of overturning Roe v. versus Wade. There's this thing, but remember, prayer was also taken out of the schools in the 1960s, by the way. This used to be stated to me by people, a family member who was a member of the Church of God in Christ at one time, told me this. I wouldn't have known. When I was a little boy, I was brought up and raised in a Christian household, which I don't understand why some of these preachers, they just gave Obama a pass when he passed same-sex marriage and these other corrupt things, and actually put them a rank above our race, our skin color, by the way. There's things that law got into when that bakery got sued, and that he made your sexual preference take precedence over your religious right, over your religious freedom. So my foundation is with the church. Even though I don't attend church on a regular basis, You know, I consider myself a spiritual person. I'm very awake, what some call woke. I'm truly woke. I'm more woke than a lot of people out there that claim to be woke, because I can study a collection of information from my experience, my skill set, my background. I can go over, I have friends with secret security clearances. I can connect pieces together. I've been told by personal friends, they think it's phenomenal. I don't think it's nothing to me that I can remember back so far. They think that that's phenomenal. To me, it's nothing. You know, they're like, oh man, not a lot of people can do that. And I'm a lefty, by the way. And they say you can look up, and I found out a lot of people don't even know this. Did you know there's 3 different types of left-handed people? They say left-handed people use the right side of their brain, which means we use the correct part of our brain. Some people told me this years ago when I used to complain that mostly everyone else in the population was right-handed, but I was a lefty, a lotto, born simply unique, you know, by the way, versus the general population. And people used to tell me, they said, well, you actually use the correct part of your brain, by the way. But the difference is the right brain is more of your creative side. The left part of the brain is more analytical thinking. And some people, the way you're born, your personality, some people lean more to one or the other, by the way. So I do understand there's people, the way we process information, this gets into psychology, the way we brainstorm, the way we think, we're all not going to think the same. That's why people have different opinions. But from my observation, I think with the majority of Americans, some referred to as silent majority, support Trump. Even though I'm not a registered voter, by the way, if I was a registered voter, I would no doubt it would have been an easy decision. I would have voted for Trump in 2016, and I would have vote for him this coming November. It would be an easy decision, piece of cake. It would be simple. It would be not something I would struggle. It wouldn't be difficult, because I look at, I separate the man from politics. I don't practice identity politics, which is separate. I look at what he actually does as a leader on record, his past, his track record. Yes, there's things that could be questionable. It doesn't mean that just because you support someone that you co-sign everything that someone says or does. Doesn't mean that. By the way, there's things that I liked about President Obama, the way that he carried himself. I can say something positive about both sides of the spectrum. But I don't practice identity politics. I look at their policies. You know, I look at Trump. There's people say, oh, Dorsey, you know, Democrats and Republicans are 2 heads of the same snake. Or, you know, Trump is part of the establishment as well. I don't know. I think I can debunk that. Remember, Trump was at an event. This other content creator, I forgot about this, pointed out where he was with Hillary Clinton at this event some years past with the Pope. And he pointed out, I don't remember what his exact words were, but you guys can look it up. But he pointed out something about Hillary's connection to the child sex trafficking, and said this in a jokingly way, or at this event. And I saw the expression on Hillary's face, by the way, and how her facial expression changed. Now, remember, if you're part of the club, as some call it, if you're establishment, which is being a club member, you're not going to say something like this, because that's what's going on. There's so much corruption. They're protecting other club members, by the way, other members of the secret society. And that's what's going on. The problem why the government's got so corrupt is you have too many club members that are looking out for other club members that have broken very egregious crimes, that are operating in criminal misconduct, by the way. Just something to keep in mind. Chef Mag says, thanks, Dorsey. Appreciate you for joining. Coach Carson Cutler says, peace and love, my beloved. Appreciate you, brothers. Thank you for that comment. Positivity. William Ball says, it's okay to admit you don't have a clue. Okay. Interesting. We got people trolling. Notice when people say certain things, they're behind fake accounts. You can't see who they are sometimes. I find that interesting. People want to talk tough, but they're behind a shill account. You know, show your real face. You know, it's okay if you want to be a coward. A coward dies 1,000 deaths, but a soldier only dies once. Saint Knight says, I've known for several years my father was the VP for JP Morgan Chase here in Scottsdale, Arizona. Okay, I'm not sure what you were referring to. That message was at 11:16. It's now 11:41 p.m., which will be 23:41 military time. Job B says, Thumbs up. Appreciate you. Jersey Cody, okay. John B says city, okay. T-Cell says facts. Appreciate you. State Bound says left is the way to be, right? Rachel Gaines says, hello, I'm left-handed and an Aquarius. I do appreciate your time and intelligence. Appreciate you, Rachel. Thank you for confirming. That we have some similarities, you know, there. And we also are in the Aquarian age, by the way. You know, the universe goes through a different, every so many thousands of years, goes into a different astrological position as well, by the way. A lot of people, when they break down an astrological chart, they don't even talk about people's ascendant rising sign or what their moon was in. They just deal with the sun sign, and that's why you won't get as accurate of a reading. That's why I like the Chinese zodiac, where they deal with the animals, such as the dragon, the snake, the monkey, the rooster. It's like the chicken, the tiger. I think their zodiac is more accurate, by the way. It's not enough people over in the Eastern astrology have the go by the full entire chart, by the way. King Terrence says, by the way, most of those businesses were failures. I beg to differ on that. Why was everyone back then? Trump even received an award, by the way, from Jesse Jackson with the Rainbow Push Coalition. There's photos, many images of Al Sharpton. All these people were very good friends with Trump. I question the fact that his money was good at the time. Why don't they pay that money back? By the way, I also heard Trump looked out for a lot of people such as Dennis Rodman, Mike Tyson. We know went through, both individuals went through going broke. Trump was like a savior. It was mentioned by this guy that follows Trump from the Miami area that's part of this group called Blacks for Trump. Mentioned he worked for Trump Tower in Miami and said Trump looked out for a lot of black men, African-American men down there, and paid them very well, by the way. He tells this story. So I find that hard to believe. Overall, he has his flaws. He's not perfect. But I don't, you know, from what I've gone over, I have to do a separate video. And I got another video that's coming where I'm going to break down what my opinion, why I swing more to the left. It's probably going to be another walk away video. Hashtag walk away. I mean, why I swing more to the right versus the left. I'm going to go over the differences in that the right, their values align with my values more so. The left wants to end the family structure. They're pushing for like the LGBTQ movement. That's to get rid of the nuclear family structure. Black Lives Matter. They removed it from their website. I guess over the backlash, once black people are waking up, starting to find out. It was started by feminists, by the way, feminist women who are involved in, some say witchcraft. I won't really call it that, but devious activities, by the way, and one in particular that was seen in this video with these wings and stuff like that. And it's like, come on, you're not fooling me. I'm for God, family, and the Constitution. Structure, you need structure. You don't have stability without structure. The conservative Republican Party is not perfect, but they have more structure. The left is not for law and order. I'm for law and order, by the way. Obamacare was too high. I used to have United Healthcare, by the way. It was a disaster. Why did United Healthcare also pull out of Obamacare? Why I heard Humana and other companies pulled out of Obamacare. If the Affordable Care Act was so good and so righteous and phenomenal, why did these major healthcare providers pull out of it? Answer me that. Riddle me that. Just saying. But you won't hear the mainstream media talk about this, by the way. Will you? Just something to keep in mind in making a proper assessment and evaluation. That's why I swing more to the right than I do the left. I swing more to the right, by the way. It's funny, I'm left-handed, but they say left-handed people use the right side of their brain. So it means I use the right side. I think the right way, by the way. Said, listen, we cannot give credit to no other president other than George W. Bush concerning this thing. Okay, I do feel where you're coming from in that statement. You know, I think it's more complex. I wasn't trying to necessarily get political, and I consider him to be I did a video where some people asked me when I did my first walkaway video, which is on this channel, it's still uploaded, and I mentioned some things about Ted Cruz, and I said I'll go with the lesser of two evils. I mean, establishment, because we're in a fight. The left wants to totally take over. I think Republicans, conservatives, they need to double down and support Trump like never before, because the left, they don't play fair. They don't play by the rules either. And with them, anything goes. Ariza L says, thumbs up, clapping. Thank you, appreciate you. Anthony Simmons says, J. Edgar Hoover didn't like women either, laugh all out. Okay. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, there was a tumultuous time period that was going on, but the feminist movement was used to infiltrate the black community and broke down a family structure. It's not a coincidence. You have a lot of, they say 70% of African-American women, Candace Owens mentioned this, and these statistics are highly accurate, don't have fathers in the household, are ran by single parent mothers. You know, 70% of black households. It's not a coincidence. The feminist movement would not give benefits and welfare to a woman if she had a man living in a household back in the 70s. I have to do a separate video. I've touched on this in the past in a previous video, by the way. And they also used that movement to break up the civil rights movement, by the way, and create a division, a wedge, because that's why you have what's called the battle of the sexes. They always label men as sexist, a misogynist, a misogyny. By the way, the feminists, you have toxic masculinity, you know, and these things they've created to try to weaken the nuclear family structure and attack on masculinity. Men contributed to society. Men were inventors. Men did a lot of things that contributed to the technology we have in society. Many women by nature need men to work on their cars, to fix things, do plumbing work, electrical work, construction, to be firefighters, policemen. So there's positive things that men do. I'm not making excuse for, I'm not referring to the corrupt men, the bad ones, the thugs, the criminals out there, but the men played a critical role in the evolution of society, by the way. So I think that needs to be rethought, in my humble opinion, when you look at history. Javi says, I'm ambidextrous. Okay, got you. King Terrence says, are you familiar with the Democrat of old being the new Republican? No, I'm not. That argument I can debunk, that the Democrats are still using their same tactics as after slavery, when Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. They're doing it, utilizing it in a different capacity. The Democrats also created the KKK. I forgot to mention that earlier. They tried to cover this up too, by the way. Actually, they did from previous, I found out the Democratic National Convention many years ago, the Democratic Party had a Republican, had had a Grand Wizard from the Ku Klux Klan speak at the Democratic National Convention years ago. And I found out they covered a lot of this history up. They didn't want people to know this. The Democratic Party was responsible. I found one article on it, was connected to burning down Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was members of the Ku Klux Klan that were at their peak during that time period that converged into Tulsa. And that Democratic Party created the KKK. It was members of the Democratic Party that organized and started. The Republican Party was created as a result, I found out, to also combat a lot of the things the Democratic Party was doing. It didn't mean that they were responsible for trying to rescue or save minorities, but they played a critical role in freeing slaves in the Emancipation Proclamation. They were the abolitionists who fought to end slavery. By the way, it was the Democratic Party that created the black codes. I found out the state of Mississippi, which was heavily Democratic controlled, the South was Democratic controlled. You had a party within the Democratic Party called the Dixiecrats, which is south of the Mason-Dixon line, which is a dividing line between the North and the South. If you're going towards Maryland, you'll see the Mason-Dixon line. The Democrats did a lot to try to re-enslave black people, by the way. They tried to prevent the amendments of being passed. The Republicans also helped pass the 14th, 15th, and 16th Amendments, by the way. It was Democrats who were fighting to keep and to re-enslave black people, and still didn't want to allow black people to become free that worked as sharecroppers during and they created the Jim Crow laws. That was the Democratic Party. That's why most black people up until the 50s, until around the 60s, voted Republican, by the way. This is a fact. The only reason that black people switched over to the Democratic Party is they felt Kennedy was a lesser of two evils. It's not that they trusted Kennedy, because in their eyes, they still saw he was a white man. They just saw him as a lesser of two evils. By the way, kind of similar to the way people view Trump and Biden. I've heard some people say, pick one plantation master over the other. But however, I see Trump as more of an ally. The Democratic Party, when you delve into it, the Democrats want to end the family structure. They're not about law and order. They did not disavow anarchists of these violent riots that took place, these violent killings that took place after George Floyd, after Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor situation. The Democrats won't disavow that. Democrats, they won't disavow the history that they were involved with creating the Democratic Party. It's funny, they can go back 10 years on somebody's Twitter profile, but we can't go back 100 years on their history, or less than 100 years of their involvement with Jim Crow. And Mississippi, the state, created their own specific black codes, by the way. Look up the history of the Democratic Party, and you will be surprised. Just saying. Okay, Rachel Gaines says, that's phenomenal to me. Terrence says, yes, you should have a balanced look at the whole picture, bro. We need the middle ground to be built up this country. Yes, I agree with what you're saying. There are flaws. That's why I said the Republicans aren't perfect, just like with the police. I agreed, and they actually had passed the bill. Remember, the Democrats blocked the police reform bill that the Republicans had passed. By the way, the Democrats are also, Nancy Pelosi's holding up the stimulus, because Trump was going to sign it, by the way. The previous one, it just had to pass the Senate. The Democrats, they don't want to let up with the unemployment insurance. They don't want to compromise. And it's supposed to be a bipartisan bill. And Stephen Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, says they're trying not to exceed a certain point of the national debt, which is up to 27 trillion now, because at a certain point, it can get bad. So credit that to the Democrats. They also, that's why if you heard for some, the Democrats' role they're playing with the, collapse in the financial crash in the financial market, too, by the way. So I do have a middle ground, but that's where I'm not sure if you are African-American, King Terrence, where we as melanated people have to admit our own transgressions and stop always using an excuse, by the way. And those that are involved in criminal activity, black people have to stop putting toxic, corrupt people on a pedestal. They have to stop romanticizing them, by the way, and own up to responsibility. If you're involved in drug selling, drug rings, you got to deal with the consequences of that. Stop putting toxic culture on a pedestal. That's not cool at all. And I'll be talking about that, and I address that down the road. So I do have a very good balanced perspective, by the way. And I can mention, things on both sides. But overall, that's why the Republicans, their values line more with my values that I have personally. At least they're not trying to end the family structure. With the Democrats, you won't have a country if they get into absolute power. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Well, look here, guys. I got to go. I'm going to run through the comments and shoot up out of here. I'm going to read these last few, then I'm going to shoot up out. Okay, it says, Job says, you can train yourself to use both hands. My son is predominantly lefty, but also ambidextrous. Okay, yes, I'm aware of that as well. Darren Jackson says, Benny always says facts, don't care about your feelings. Nice. Saint Knight says, born left-handed, also Aquarius, February 4th, the wood ox zodiac. Okay, I'm familiar with the ox, by the way. And the Chinese zodiac, I'm the earth sheep, by the way. The earth, or also sheep, is also known as the goat, the greatest of all time. That's what one of my relatives told me, that was born the year of the dragon, by the way. State Bound says 2-7 here. Okay, Aquarius. Okay, Aquarius as well. Okay, that's what's up. I didn't really peep that at first when you put that logo up. I forgot that is the Aquarius symbol. By the way, State Bound says left-handed with the right mind. Nice. See, appreciate you guys. Confirmation. Mary Saunders says, hello, Dorsey. Mary Saunders says, I use both hands. And you know, they say people who use both hands that are ambidextrous, you guys are talented people as well. So just balanced in nature. So appreciate you guys for joining me. I'm your host, John Dorsey at Dorsey's Resource. You all can follow me at Dorsey's Resource. Obviously, I'm on YouTube. You can catch me on Facebook at Dorsey's Resource. I'm also on Instagram at Dorsey's Resource _2019. And I'm also on Twitter at Dorsey's Resource. By the way, I appreciate you guys joining me. The marathon continues. Real legends never die. We will get through this. You guys just hang in there. Everyone have a blessed, wonderful, and safe night. Take care and God bless. Deuces.